Hello, this is Jacob on another episode of Small Business Chat. Matt joins me today on another beautiful day to talk more about trademark news. Matt, how's it going today?
I'm feeling a little bit better. So, hey, let's get this done, right? Just getting over COVID part two.
All right, right. How was that this last round? I know you've had it a couple of times, haven't you?
Yeah, this one was weird. This is weird. Like I can't go into all the little things that happened, and God bless all of the people out there that have had it and that had a worse outcome. But this time, it actually had some really weird symptoms, like losing feeling in my hands for like about 30 minutes. That was the funkiest one.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
Yeah, that one was funky. And again, there's some things that again I know we're supposed to keep this PG and rated R or whatever it is, but we definitely I can't say for the rest of the symptoms, but there's some really funky symptoms. But I'm happy to say that I'm like 95, 96%. Thank you for asking. How you
I'm
doing?
doing well. I'm doing well. A nice, beautiful, well, rainy, ugly day outside, I would say. Just
Yeah.
like this last couple of weeks have been really pouring down rain in North Carolina. So not that
After
exciting.
getting none for like about 8 weeks. Yeah, it's been nice.
Exactly.
Money from the sky.
Exactly. Well, anybody that's listening today, thank you for joining us on again in this next episode of our podcast. We got some trademark news for you. Also, again, this episode is sponsored by the Trademark Company, where if you need any trademark help or any trademark needs, you know where to go. So I'll leave the link in the description. But today we cover a couple of topics. One of the most recent is Logan Paul's Prime energy drink is under a trademark lawsuit from the U.S. Olympic Committee for his use of marketing, and then also I think it's mostly marketing that he does to market the drink, which I don't even know how Prime is in some way confusing with anything that's maybe you, Matt, you know a little bit more about this, but anything has to do with the Olympics. But basically, they're stating also, again, most of his trademark phrases are Olympic, Olympian, Team USA, and going for gold are some of the online marketing that he does. And along with KSI, also him, which are another popular, very popular YouTuber or TikToker or whatever you want to call them. Um,
Yeah.
they've come out with this drink and they're receiving some backlash. I know there are some other things about we also were brought to light about something to do with this chemical that he puts in the drinks that will stay with you if you inhale it or that you take into your body that will stay with you the rest of your life. So Logan Paul's under some fire lately from into some legal things that he's been going through. So yeah, Matt, what do you think about all this? It's pretty interesting, ain't it?
Who is Logan Paul?
Please don't tell me you just said that.
I know he was some dude like he's like when I look at him and again for the viewers out there or viewers or listeners or whatever, I'm old, I'm 53. I'm looking at this guy and he's like an MMA fighter, right? And he's got like he looks like the ultimate millennial to me.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll inform you.
Yeah.
So I'm not really back and forth, but more so I'm not really like that appeased by Logan Paul for pretty much isn't. I mean, there was how he started out. I'll tell you. Do you remember Vines? Do you know what Vines were back in the day?
Are they little videos?
Good job. Yeah, yeah. There you go. They're
Yeah.
little videos. They pretty much were. It was TikTok before TikTok, right? There was these.
Oh, okay.
They're like really short videos that capture the attention and screw with the attention span of millennials and anybody that watches them
Yeah.
on a daily basis, including me. Um, and Logan Paul started out there. He was like one of the originals. He's been up there with like who King Bach is or King Batch.
Is it going to slow this down if I say no?
Maybe a little bit. He's another famous Viner that came out of it. Him and Logan Paul
Okay.
are like pretty much the two most famous Viners that came out of it. Jake Paul, do you know who Jake Paul is? He's Logan Paul's brother. He's a famous boxer now. He just had his big fight. He was supposed to fight Mike Tyson this month.
Oh, that was Jake, not Logan. I thought Logan was supposed to fight Tyson.
No, it was Jake Paul that's supposed to fight Tyson.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to some point we're gonna have to actually go to video and you can diagram all this stuff out for me. But so Vines are basically TikTok before our social media got stolen by the communists of the Chinese. Okay, I got you.
Exactly. Very good. Very
And
good,
then
man.
Logan and Jake and some other guy named King something were all the kings of Vine. So Logan Paul, but he is he is a fighter, right? He's a big dude. Like he's
Yes,
not
so he has also boxed, but I can't remember how many years ago that this happened, but they him and Jake Paul started getting into boxing out of nowhere. And
right.
how they started out is they started challenging other YouTubers, other famous YouTubers to fight professionally with box. Obviously, some of the people like KSI even boxed, I think, with Logan. I can't remember. It could have been Logan or it could have been Jake. Either one of them, he fought in the ring as well. And it's a
Okay,
publicity stunt. But
so what you're actually sort of saying then, okay, so I've always heard I sort of know who he is now or whatnot, but now I'm starting to, whatever. But honestly, it almost sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've often thought that one of our problems in society is that we now have microphones, bully pits or whatever you want to call it, for basically people who don't have to stand behind their opinions. Like back in my day, if I called someone a knucklehead, it had to be to their face. It wasn't out on social media. And then, so I didn't call a lot of people knuckleheads because then they would have, pounded my ears or, could have beat me up or whatever, or I'd have to get in a fight, so to speak. And I think that we've lost that respect in society. Sorry, remember, I'm still coming out of COVID, so hopefully this point will be made. But in the era of social media, I think that's one of the reasons why we have so many crazy, so many opinions flying around, all that sort of stuff, because there's no ramifications. You don't even have to put your real name to it. You could be like, some fake name. And then now what I'm sort of hearing out of you coming back full circle to this is someone like a Logan Paul was like challenging other people to actually fight, which I sort of actually respect on a really odd level. Because was it sort of because they're just like, okay, like put your money where your mouth is? Like if someone's like, so for instance, if I started talking smack about Logan Paul, which I'm not, but like, would he be like, okay, Matt, let's get in the ring, let's hash this out like real men? Because if that's the case, I'm like, okay, I think that's actually pretty cool.
it is.
So
It's
maybe I'm,
playing on the one of the greatest boxers of all time, Muhammad Ali. One of the reasons, obviously, he was a great fighter. But one of the other things that made him really famous is his smack talk that he would do
oh yeah,
everyone that would go up against him. And it's what made him more popular, made him more fun to watch, and especially for the fight. It would just made it more entertaining to see him actually
okay,
beat up the person he was talking smack about. So it's almost the same principle, where they start just like any Conor McGregor fight. Conor McGregor
oh yeah.
talks a lot of smack before the fight, and then when the fight happens, it's multi-million, how much money that the UFC, or even Conor McGregor or that other fighter makes from it is because it's a huge, somewhat publicity stunt to get everyone to watch.
And I love
Um,
Conor McGregor because
exactly.
I haven't seen him fight all that much, but just the quotes I've seen. And again, it's once again, social media are these actual quotes that come out of his mouth. But he had a quote, and I know as a married man, you'll get this. As a good, faithful husband, he said there's some quote out there that Conor McGregor said something about when I had nothing, my wife was there for me, cooking, cleaning, and she was the one to push me, to continue with my, MMA, even when I didn't want to continue with it and all that sort of stuff. And now, that I have everything, I want to give it to her and want to make sure that she gets the life that she deserves because all of this is because she kept pushing me. He has some sort of quote like that. I'm just like, dude, what a good, whether or not you think he's a jerk in life or whatever, what a good man if he actually said something like that about somebody else in his life. So anyways, as we spitball around this. Okay, so maybe I actually sort of don't mind these Logan Pauls and stuff because maybe I just don't know who they are. So that's my
Yeah,
ignorance
they're
coming
very
through.
interesting. I will say, I mean, and Logan Paul also does a lot of other things too. He's pretty rich man, man. He's a millionaire at this point, and he also, again, all he started was off of Vine, and he's famous for twitching, which Ginger does. He did a lot of Twitch streams where he had famous, I think he had Tom Brady on once. He was also on Ninja's channel, which Ninja is one of the most popular Twitch streamers of all time as well. And he's also very well known for his podcasting as well, where he has a lot of famous people. I think he's also been on Joe Rogan a few times too. Um,
Right.
so yeah,
Yeah.
he's just always famous, always in the news, and so it's very interesting to see him. This also, I'll tread on this one very lightly. He was also involved in a somewhat of a scandal where he went to this one place in Japan, I believe. I could be wrong with the country. I think it's Japan, where there's this these set of woods where it's called the suicide woods.
Right.
There's probably another
That
name
sounds like a fun place to go. The Suicide
butchering it,
Woods. Okay,
but
yeah.
it's
Hey, where
but
are you
it's
going on vacation? Oh, I'm going to the Suicide Woods. Oh, we'll have a
right,
great time.
but
Guess
but
we won't
it's
be seeing you again.
but it's famous. It's famous for people going there on purpose to kill themselves, basically.
No, really? The Suicide Woods? That's famous for? Well,
Right.
you know something? Those people are not that bad
I
because they save a
don't
lot of
think that's
money in
what
the
it's
airfare.
actually
They don't have to go
called.
back.
I think it's called something else, but it's pretty close to it. And you're not supposed to bring any sort of filming equipment or anything in there. I'm pretty sure. And Logan Paul was famous for bringing filming equipment in there and filming a dead body that was in there. And he received a whole bunch of backlash. He ended up having to release a video saying he was sorry and a whole bunch of apologies. So yeah, he was in the news for that. It was like a couple of years ago that happened.
Lovely. So
But
now
yeah,
he's in the news for getting his butt sued by the U.S. Olympic Committee.
always news. I'll read some things from the article, so and I'll also include it in the description if anybody wants to read through
Yeah,
it.
because
But
I'm looking at it now because now I've had a chance to take a look at it while we were chatting back and forth. And yeah, you say what you want to say. Yeah, he's wrong.
yeah,
Sorry on this one. Yeah, he's
Prime
going to
Hydration, the
they're sued
sports
him.
beverage brand founded by the social media personalities Logan Paul and KSI, is facing a federal lawsuit from the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, which is accusing the beverage company of trademark infringement. The committee is alleging in a lawsuit filed in the District of Colorado that Prime Hydration has used trademark phrases which include Olympic, Olympian, Team USA, and going for gold. So again, it's primarily dealing with Logan Paul's and KSI's marketing that they do online of the product, specifically pointing to its drink that features NBA superstar Kevin Durant. And NBC's news reported the lawsuit stating Prime's Hydration's conduct has been and continues to be willful, deliberate, and in bad faith with malicious intent to trade on the goodwill of the USOPC and the IOC. The committee wrote in its lawsuit per the report. The committee also described the trademark infringement as willful and blatant.
Yeah, so he's got a problem. And so this we can expand this out, by the way, just so you know when we comment on this, is where Logan Paul and KSI's real defense is going to be, without even reading the pleadings, it's got to be something under the concept of fair use. Because we all know general trademark law 101 is that what trademark rights do is it gives you the exclusive right to use those trademarks through either yourself or through your paid licensees or unpaid licensees. So if the U.S. Olympic Committee has these as, going for gold and all that sort of stuff that you just mentioned as registered federal trademarks, they own the exclusive rights to use them in connection with the goods or services with which they are registered, or a logical expansion of those goods or services. So for instance, if they have them in reference to energy drinks or sports drinks, then, someone who tries to use them for energy drinks or probably any drinks in that general are going to have, you're going to be precluded from using it without a license from that. And that's what their argument is. The real thing that then you have to sort of consider would simply be is the doctrine of fair use here. And for, all you business owners and such, when can you actually use somebody else's trademark? I don't know, Jacob. I don't even know if I've ever really talked about that. Have I ever talked about that much in the office?
I think we've talked about it on maybe a podcast or two, but not much in the office.
Yeah. I mean, so the law really surrounds, okay, so if you're using it just to sort of identify somebody else, like, so for instance, one of the hallmarks of fair use, law and trademarks is comparative advertising, right? So like can Coca-Cola use Pepsi's registered trademark effectively when they're saying, hey, 4 out of 5 people prefer Coke over Pepsi, because everyone prefers Coke over Pepsi unless you're insane. But in any event, that's my opinion. Again, but I mean, it's like, so you should be able to use somebody else's trademark when you're doing comparative advertising, for instance, or when you're just trying to identify something. So for instance, if Logan Paul were a U.S. Olympic athlete and, he used one of these type of trademarks to describe himself in a press release, that is likely going to be okay. And I'll tell you exactly where this comes from. Love this one. Jacob, Have
Yes.
you ever heard of Playboy magazine?
Oh no, never, never. What's that? Is
Never.
that?
No, of course not. You're a married man.
Yeah, of course.
Um, well, there used to be this magazine many years ago that had naked pictures of women. I know it's hard to believe, but
No
they used to actually
way.
put, I swear to God, God is my witness. And one of the original and the best ones was called Playboy magazine. It's founded by a great guy. Well, I don't know if he was a great guy or not. I never knew him. A guy named Hugh Hefner, and such. And as a result, they every year they would have I don't know, some type of contest. I can only imagine what it, how the person won it, but not to be dismissive of this, they would have a contest to figure out which of the women who are featured models, they called them playmates, would be the playmate of the year. And then they do a second shoot or spread, as the case may be. Sorry, bad pun there. Anyways, but so the Playmate of the Year, I can't remember what her name was, who was Playmate of the Year at one point, but Playboy magazine actually sued her because she was identifying herself as Playmate of the Year in press releases and when she was selling her own whatever. I can't remember what she was selling, honestly, lingerie, whatever, maybe a book, whatever. And the court had to consider whether or not that was fair use because she had actually, even though it was a registered trademark by the Playboy Entertainment Company, could she actually use it to identify herself under principles of fair use? And the case came down and it actually said, yes, she could actually do that because she wasn't using it to actually advertise in and of itself. She was merely saying, hey, it was a thing. I had won Playmate of the Year. Yes, that may be your registered trademark, but it's sort of like saying, could Patrick Mahomes now use the term Super Bowl? Saying Patrick Mahomes, like, so could, here's a great example. When Patrick Mahomes does Head and Shoulders advertisements, right? Can Head and Shoulders like flash up Patrick Mahomes, 3-time Super Bowl champion? Answer, likely yes. Why? It's fair use. Even though they're using somebody else's registered trademark, they're not using it as the trademark themselves. They're not saying the Super Bowl, the NFL endorses this actual advertisement. They're just simply saying Patrick Mahomes is a 3-time Super Bowl champion. And that is likely fair use. So coming all the way back to this, if Logan Paul was using one of these, U.S. Olympics phrases because he used to be an Olympian and saying, former U.S. Olympian Logan Paul or something, probably fair use. Not quite sure where his fair use argument is going to stem from here, because he sounds like he is actually just trying to basically go off sort of the fame of the actual Olympics right now. Surprise, surprise! At a time we're 2 days away from the Paris Olympics beginning. What do you think?
Can he? From at least the marketing side of things, I don't think so, especially if you haven't been able to get approval from the US Olympics or the US Olympics Committee to use any of what they're doing in their marketing campaigns.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't know if they've ever crossed that bridge. It doesn't seem like it because obviously they're getting backlash from them. So I would say no.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, and so it's looking at this. I'm just saying like it's he's obviously not a licensee because they wouldn't be suing a licensee. And then is it fair use? Well, he's not. He looking at the packaging and things of that nature. It looks like again trademark phrasing such as going for gold, Team USA Olympian. And if you're using somebody else's trademark, it would just be like if I another example because I love going back to my Coke examples, Coca-Cola, I should be more specific. You know, if I were to use one of their phrases on my drink, like, it used to be like, Coke adds life, or, I'm trying to think what other famous beverage phrases. Oh gosh, or just here's one of the most famous phrases of all time. It's not a beverage phrase, just do it. Could I use just do it on my clothing? Do you think Nike would stand for that?
Not at all, unless you got somehow approval from Nike to do that.
Yeah, and they're not going to because they have such a, I'm sure they have a licensing program that's extraordinarily tight with their, mega partners. But as an upstart, clothing company, I couldn't just go out and put like, well, just do it. Well, all I'm trying to tell people is just go get your exercise in. So it's fair use. Nah, I mean, they've had it registered on the Federal Trademark Registry for years. So you can't use it as a descriptive fair use, terminology. And again, even though some people may think, oh, well, the Olympics is, blah, blah, blah. The Olympics is no different from the Super Bowl. And again, you can go if you don't know what I'm talking about. Every year around January, the NFL starts putting out notices. Do not, to bars, everywhere. Don't use Super Bowl unless you're a valid like licensee, because we will come after you and sue you, because this is how we make our money. And they got a lot of big paychecks to pay in that league. But likewise, that's how the Olympics makes their money. Licensees, big TV deal with NBC and Peacock and wherever else they've done it around the world and the globe. This is their moment to make money. And so we got to respect their trademark rights. And if Mr. Paul's energy drink failed to do that, I would have thought that anyone who is of certain size would have a general counsel that would have picked up on this. And perhaps they got an opinion that says they think this is fair use, or some provision that I'm not aware of. But I would have thought that this, you normally don't see like a lawsuit of this. Usually there's a cease and desist letter and, hey, we'll wrap this up really quick because everyone knows what's going on. I'm a little bit surprised that it would gotten to the point that it's a lawsuit, because trademark law is usually pretty black and white. And you can usually tell, who's going to win, who's not going to win, et cetera, et cetera. And so, we'll see what happens with this one. But I think they probably have a pretty substantial uphill battle, because I just don't think it's fair use. And if they're using somebody else's trademark, you can't do that, folks. You just can't do that.
All right, Matt, maybe we should start a new trend whenever we read through a news article or a news thing that we do. We should have you say infringement or no, and you'll say infringement,
No.
and you'll say
Yeah.
no infringement. Okay, Matt,
Yeah.
what is your determination, infringement or no?
Infringement from what I'm seeing.
Infringement.
And of course, and by the way, we just have to make sure that everyone understands these are our opinions. I'm not technically saying anything negative towards Mr. Paul, his company, or this other people and stuff like that. Just looking at the facts in a very vacuum as reported by, I think it was Yahoo News. To me, it looks like infringement, straight up.
Yeah, I believe so too. My ruling is infringement. Again, Matt also touched on a good point, is all these videos, this is all for educational purposes. And then also, especially if you're a small business owner, we create these videos for you. So you know what to look out for. So just entertaining things that we do every single week to just fill everyone up on the news involving trademarks. So again, this is our opinions and not actual full-on advice. So Next article we have,
because I don't want Mr. Paul to get upset and sue us, and I also don't want to have to fight him, because I'm 53 and I think he's a lot bigger than I am. And maybe when I was in my 20s, I would have stood somewhat of a chance back when I was an athlete. You heard about this at the morning meeting and all that sort of stuff. I could hold my own. But at 53 years of old, I just don't think, I think Tyson's my age. I think he just bowed out as well, didn't he? If Mike Tyson's not going to take him on, I'm certainly not going to take him on. He'd pummel me.
Well, Mike Tyson would be fighting his brother, Jake Paul, which Jake Paul just won his fight. I think. Let me actually look up if Mike Tyson that Tyson is actually completely out. He actually was out because of a stomach ulcer, that his trainer told him to bow out of the fight because he was afraid for his health. So that's the reason why but it got delayed from what I'm hearing. Let me see if it actually did get delayed.
Oh, because I'm going to tell you right now, I would have purchased that fight on pay-per-view just to see Iron Mike get in the ring again. And, good for, whichever Paul brother and Iron Mike. I would have actually spent the, $70-80 to watch that. Absolutely 100%. And candidly, I would have been rooting for Mike because, he's the old guy like me, and I think he's pound for pound, probably the greatest fighter that ever existed. And I know you got, Muhammad Ali fans, and, there's Evander Holyfield, who's actually a customer of the Trademark company.
That's right.
And and, all these other great boxers of all time, people always throw out Rocky Marciano, and such. But
just to fill you on, we could still, Matt, we can have a Tyson fight over at your house if you want. November 15th is when it's actually fully on schedule.
My house. I will actually do it. That'd be fun.
That would
absolutely put that on the big screen.
Invite Ian up. That'd be cool.
Yep. Absolutely, because that is a see Mike Tyson do it, then again, just watch his stuff. Man, that guy he is what a talent he is, and was in his prime, is still, anyways, what's our next topic for discussion here now that we've done with fair use a little bit and trademark stuff?
Of course, we got very underwhelming here, but I'm just joking. X, which was primarily known as Twitter back in the good old days, after Elon Musk bought out Twitter, They are now violating trademark rights, according to a PR firm called Multiply, which I've never heard of. I don't think you've ever heard of.
Nope.
And I'm looking at their website now. I mean, yeah, they do have X here or there. Their main logo is an X. To me, Matt, if you want to look it up while I'm speaking here again, just so you can get it in front of you. If we're going over logos here, I mean, their X has a lot of like hashes through it or like slashes through it. And it almost looks like the X Factor X if you're asking me.
Oh yeah, I remember X Factor back in the day. Yeah.
Let me look up the X Factor logo and see how close it
Well,
is.
and just, we talked about this last week, and not as many people got a chance to hear our last week for various reasons. But I encourage you to look it up at some juncture. And I don't even want to mention too much about it in case there's some sort of algorithm that, knocks our stuff offline. But we talked about, the University of Alabama versus who are the two A's that were going out to, versus Live Golf.
Yeah.
And then I also want to talk about, there's another thing, for small businesses to really understand as well is, and I think this going up against Elon Musk is one of the things that gives us a nice platform to chat about this. And again, these are my opinions. I'm not saying anything, pro or con. For many, many years, I was an investor in Tesla, and I really believed in Elon Musk, and I think what he's doing is absolutely stunningly great. But I also think that a gentleman like Elon Musk, much like, Dana White from the oh gosh, what do you call it? MMA and all that sort of stuff. What's Dana White's league? Sorry.
UFC.
UFC, thank you. UFC and stuff. I mean, there's wonderful, great stories about that. That dude doesn't take anything from anyone, right? And I get the feeling that that's the exact same, get up as Elon Musk. And I mean that as high a compliment as I can. Mr. Musk did not get to where he is by cowarding to people that come after him or criticize him or anything like that. And so when I was a practicing attorney many, many years ago, one of the things that I would advise people on would be okay, so you may be right, you may be wrong in reference to a lawsuit, but you have to consider who's on the other side. So if you're a small business, and, you're, under $1 million in revenue a year, what's going to happen if you were to go sue a mega brand like a Nike or a McDonald's or something like that? And so you really have to rely on good counsel to say, like, these people aren't going to back down and they will spend you into the ground. Matter of fact, part of their litigation strategy, even if they know that they're wrong internally, may be to just run you into the ground financially. And I've advised people, because I've represented those companies when I worked for a big firm once before. And that was part of the strategy. Said, hey, we may be wrong, but what you do is, they sue them in a federal lawsuit, and then you do what's called a countersuit. And once you do a countersuit, that person can't just drop the lawsuit. So congratulations, you're now Thelma and Louising this over the cliff, because you're just like, hey, you can't just walk away from this. Before that, you can just dismiss a lawsuit if you're a plaintiff and walk away. And so if I'm Elon Musk's counsel on this, I find something to basically countersue these people with, malicious prosecution, whatever. You come up with some theory. But then the next thing would be okay, so now you're the small company and you just realize, okay, like you're now suing basically a juggernaut. What is it? Is he the richest guy in the world? It depends on the day, right?
Him,
Like he's
him
either
and the guy who owns Louis Vuitton are usually tied. Bernard
who the
Arnault.
heck's that? I thought it was like Bezos. Who the heck's Louis
No, Jeff
Vuitton?
Bezos. I mean, he's still up there. Don't get me wrong, but he's slid into like maybe fourth or fifth. Right now, it's Bernard Arnault, which again, who is the owner of Louis Vuitton and other fashion designers. And Elon Musk are both usually come off first and second all the time.
First and second. And if you've seen Bezos's or Bezos's, I'm sorry, I've never quite figured out how to pronounce his last name. I mean that respectfully to the man. If you've seen his new fiance, he's sliding into a lot better things these days. But anyways, sorry.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, he said what he did, but mad props out to him, and best of luck to them. As they walk down the aisle at some juncture, he deserves all the success in the world. That man has worked his buns off, and unlike anyone else, I love an American success story, and him, Elon Musk, part of my many of my idols. But just getting back to this,
I wanted to ask you a quick question really quick to see what your opinion on is this. We're going off topic here, but I want to see what your thought is. Do you think that Amazon has somewhat not destroyed, but somewhat has severely harmed small businesses because of their delivery system.
Yes.
And if you were Jeff
So, yeah,
Bezos,
there's no other way to
if
say
you were
it.
Jeff
Yes.
Bezos, would you ever feel really bad about that?
No. Do you want
How
me?
explain?
I'll be happy to expand. Like, I think it's one of the challenges in this country and in this world, and there's just so many different competing interests going on. But an entrepreneur's goal is to basically is to do the best you can do by the people. And the only reason that his thing is so popular is because it's amazing, and it does a really great job. But then at some juncture, government that is there to step in and say, yes, but you're so amazing, and so you really can't hate any of the parties that are at play, because you know do they cause small businesses damage to small businesses and large businesses, like Kmart and stuff like that, to go out of business? Yes. Why? Because they've innovated and they've just made it awesome. And like, the regulators, I think, have been trying to slow down Amazon's even more awesome innovations, because when Amazon has a drone army delivering your packages in 30 minutes or less, and if he got him, because that's the goal, is basically like you can almost instantly get it, to your they probably have crazy DARPA like people right now trying to figure out how can you get instant packages to you. Can we, because sorry, I'm going down a really, really deep rabbit hole here, but as people may or may not be aware, teleportation has actually happened about 4 years ago in the South Pacific. They were actually able to teleport a single particle from one island to another island. This is absolutely true. You can look it up. Like Star Trek teleportation type stuff. Can they teleport multi-cell organisms, all that sort of stuff? No, they can't. Right now, where Amazon is they want to have a drone army. But imagine if Amazon could get them. They probably have like a DARPA type, division of people that are like looking at, okay, can we just teleport your, iPod or whatever it is to you instantaneously? I guess iPod would actually be teleported from the 90s. But anyways, but can we actually teleport your stuff instantaneously? And so that's does he deserve the riches that he, has? Yes, absolutely. Because he's worked on it. And then government's role, though, is just to come in and make sure that those, yes, you've done a great job and keep pushing the envelope, Jeff, because we need people like you pushing that envelope. Government's role is just to come and say, listen, okay, we understand you're like one of the world's richest guys. You've done an amazing job, but we can't allow you to harm our society as well. So there are competing interests here, and hopefully they can all just sit down and sing Kumbaya and figure out where those interests are. But I think it's incumbent on businesses then to get on board and innovate as well. And that's one of the things that we push, at the Trademark company is if you're standing still, you're losing. I mean, you've got to keep pushing that envelope, even as a small business. So has it been bad to small businesses, Amazon, all that sort of stuff? Absolutely. But primarily the ones that have failed to innovate, think about it. The old general store from the 1800s, do you see a lot of them around?
Not
No.
anymore.
But why? People don't, that's not the way people shop. People want it on their phone. They want an app. They want to be able to get it in, now. And if I can't get it now, such is life. Jeff just helped create that market. And that's why he is one of the world's richest men, because Amazon did it bigger, better, faster, and just more awesome than anyone else. So getting back to it, if I may, I assume you agree with me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you jumping back onto it. One of the things, though, when you're a small business and you're thinking about going up, is you really need to think about this when you're enforcing your trademark or otherwise. Should you enforce your trademark? Absolutely. Do you if you're going up against someone like an Elon Musk, you need to know who is on the other side when you go to actually enforce it. But that's more in general about any litigation, because again, I don't think a guy like Jeff, and for that matter, Elon, are just going to basically roll over. So if you're doing this just to shake somebody down for money, which I'm not saying that's what this company is doing, but the first thing I would always advise them, if I were still a practicing attorney and if I was their lawyer, would be okay, so yay, you may be right, or B, you may be wrong. A, you may be right. B, you may be wrong. But C, who am I going up against now? Are they going to make this painful on me? And that's something you have to think when you go down, because again, that philosophy is, if I'm Elon Musk's attorneys, I'm filing some sort of countersuit, and then I'm like, okay, well, good, congratulations. We're just going to do a death spiral, and we're going to charge you so much money in legal fees. If I'm looking at them, I'm Elon Musk. I don't even know how many billions he has. And this company is a, a $4 million company a year, something like that. I'm only like, okay, well, you're going to be spending $1 million a year in legal fees just to defend this. You'll be out of business. And congratulations, I just won the lawsuit because you're out of business now because you can't afford your legal fees anymore. So I think that would be my first come on. And the second part would simply be is, do they actually run social media or are they just like a general marketing company?
It
Do
looks
we
like
know?
they're a PR firm. That I mean, I'm looked at him here briefly, but it looks like they're just a PR firm that has I don't know what services they offer, but it looks like just a small time website. To me,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so maybe once again, I don't know what their thought process is behind it. Maybe they're trying to get a payday on this. Maybe they truly believe it's infringement. Maybe it is infringement. Who knows? But no one's ever heard of you, compared to like Elon Musk's, juggernaut. Then the other thing, if you're talking about single letters and coming back full circle to Alabama versus Live Golf, I mean, when you're talking about trademark rights of a single letter, they better be darn near like identical in the typeface, the font, and all that sort of stuff because the Patent and Trademark Office and in general trademark law isn't going to give you just rights to a single letter because there's only 26 of them in the English alphabet, if I'm correct. And, so it's got to be pretty much dead on look, feel, what are the goods and services and all that sort of good stuff. And because they're going to be able to bring in, if you're X, formerly known as Twitter, you can bring in 27 different experts to simply say, no one's ever heard of these people, and the goods and services don't exactly overlap because they're a PR firm. And so, yeah, and what's the problem here? So yeah, I would just caution if you're a much smaller thing, like, listen, I get it. If you're a mom and pop, someone adopts your trademark or something that you think is similar, but I just think just be very cautious before you go down that road of a federal lawsuit because if they have good counsel on the other side, and I can guarantee you, I don't know who represents X and or Twitter and Elon Musk, but again, we've talked about them. I've talked about them glowingly. All the big, in essence, big New York law firms, big city, trademark law firms. I won't ramble off anyone in particular, but their lawyers are fantastic usually, and you pay a tremendous amount of money for them, but in my opinion, they're great. And because I've tried cases against them, you heard it in the last podcast, they're fantastic lawyers. And they're going to bill the heck out of people, but they're usually going to get a pretty good result for them as well. And you just be careful what you're biting off when you're a small business, because you may not be able to chew what you think you wanted.
yep, exactly. I mean, do you think in this case, obviously, money talks? I mean, I don't know how. I've never been on. You've obviously been in on it a lot with you being our former attorney or lawyer. But I mean, how can they afford to keep on with their legal stuff that I don't know how much money Multiply even has. They could be millionaires for all I know. Do you think they'll be able to keep up with the legal fees and the legal stuff that's going to have to go on with X?
And it's anyone's guess. We'll see how X plays it. That would have been just one of my major concerns if I were advising, them on a go forward basis, because it's again, like, I can't tell you how many times over the years, back when I was practicing that I had a small mom and pop come to me and they were upset that, they thought that a major brand was knocking them off. And I'm just like, and I could actually tell them because, back in the day, I was on a first name basis with many of the general counsels for almost every major sports league in the United States, and many of the major companies in the United States, and that's a lot of major entertainment companies, from CBS, was it CBS Showtime, CBS HBO? I can't even remember. I think it's CBS Showtime. All these are, no, CBS HBO, were linked and such. And I could sort of tell you, who you could actually go to when they were reasonable, because I, had such an extensive practice years ago, and who you could go to. And I'm just like, if you pick a fight with these people, they will, they will try to kill you, like figuratively speaking, but they will try to force you into bankruptcy. And there was at least two or three law firms and companies that I knew of that I would advise, clients, do not go anywhere near these people unless it is literally a moment where you think you're going to go bankrupt. But if you're just sort of esoterically thinking these people are like knocking off your brand, do not even go near them unless you have, you're getting financially damaged. And I don't, because I think it would be slander for me to mention who they are. but those law firms and the other ones, but they were just known for being extraordinarily hard-nosed, and in my opinion, sometimes violated rules of ethics and such like that on behalf of their clients to basically try to push people out of business. There's one particular horrific case that I'm thinking of that now I specifically can't unfortunately mention, but I watched what they tried to do to my client, and we ultimately, I'll just say air quotes, won the case, but at great expense to the client. And it took some really, really savvy legal maneuvering on our part to get a winning solution for that customer. But again, our customer wasn't, or our client wasn't the one that actually picked the fight. It was this large organization that picked the fight with him. And I got him a winning solution, but it was some really creative legal work on our part and the really great people that back in the day worked for us that were able to do it. But in most part, just swinging back around full circle, your trademark's pretty much better almost completely match if you're X versus X. And just consider, and that's, but not, by the way, I'm not trying to say it was Elon Musk. Elon Musk, from best I know, is a great guy and he's taking us to different, things. He just, to me, just doesn't seem like the type of guy that's going to back down or pay a nuisance value for someone who may be pushing a claim that is really not a cognizable claim. Again, all of my opinions and all that sort of stuff. I think the guy's pretty tough, but once again, that's why he's a multi-billionaire and I'm sitting here talking with you.
Do you know why he actually changed the logo to X and what it meant to him? Do you actually know the meaning behind that?
No, what was it?
I've always wondered this, like of all things to name Twitter, which is also I don't know if you know anything about this either, but whenever I go to Twitter, if you look it up on like Google, it still shows up as twitter.com, but then it will have the X logo and the name of the
Yeah.
website is called X. So he's
Yes.
kept the URL and the all the directions towards Twitter, but he's keeping the name and the logo
Yeah.
X.
I've always been sort of fascinated by this because I'm always like, when you rebrand, I've been more of a you burn the boats type of guy, which is like, when you, and I can't remember, was it Cortez, when he reached the New World, he burned his boats. So his, crew is motivated to survive in the New World. I think it was Cortez. But, but Musk is clearly keeping a toehold back on the Twitter brand, but the brand in and of itself is extraordinarily valuable. I'm sure it's, the brand, if you were to just sell it, not even with any of the tech behind it, I'm sure it'd be valued at 50 to 100 million, just the trademark, just with nothing else behind it. And by the way, just to throw out a little, support for, Elon Musk, again, one of our genius guys that's actually helping our, civilization advance, right? But, speaking of the Twitter thing, I can always remember the uproar when he went in and fired like half of Twitter, that sort of stuff.
Yep.
And my response always is to that. Like, well, first of all, because there's a reason why he's a billionaire. And I'm sorry, people may not have socially thought that was the right thing to do. But last time I checked, my Twitter account never went down. Twitter ads never went down. He went and actually eliminated half of his payroll or something like that for kids that are getting paid a tremendous amount of money to do what exactly? And then from what I could see, and I'm sure someone can point to some report, oh no, they were 3.7 seconds slower or something like that. Dude, Twitter, there was no effect on my Twitter on my phone. Nothing. And he eliminated half his payroll. So you tell me the guy's not smart. He went through and he looked, he's like, look at all this waste. Why are we paying all these kids in New York like $140,000 a year to come in 9 o'clock, play with toys and blah, 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 and have a concept. Here's your concept. I'm your CEO. I'm going to tell you the concept. This is what we're going to do with this, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't need like 3/4 of you to do what you're not doing, which is evidently tricycle races or whatever around the office, which we all sort of see. I'm like, so I don't know how in retrospect you don't otherwise look at like the guy and be like, freaking genius, and not just like visionary, but also from a CFO perspective. If you can actually cut your costs, I'm sorry, it has a human element to it, but if you can cut your costs by half and the company's output's not affected, looks like you were right. Anyways, sorry.
Exactly. No, I have a hell of a lot of respect for Elon Musk for everything that he does. Obviously, he's again, billionaire for a reason. So, I give hell of respect to him. But yeah,
because every time
so
one of his rockets, by the way, every time one of his rockets blows up, he's so awesome. Like, I don't even think he's out in front anymore, but he'd be like, well, we learned a lot. Like, I'm just sitting there, I know his mindset. And, he's just like, we learned a lot. He goes back behind the door and just throw stuff against the wall and all that sort of stuff. But it is really cool though, that how they run it. But I mean, just dude, they're doing in like a couple of years what we haven't been able to do in 40 or 50 in the government sector with NASA. And that's not to say that our people at NASA aren't awesome. It's just that I think their hands have been tied through bureaucracy for years. Because I know a lot of NASA engineers and I love them to death, but I mean they don't have much direction there since the Kennedy administration. And so I think Elon Musk is just like, no, we're getting to Mars, and he's going to do it. We're gonna land a man on Mars. I think within the next 2 years, and through SpaceX, which is freaking. I'm sorry, it's just freaking awesome. And then, by the way,
I'm very interested in space, so yeah, I'm right
well,
there.
by the way, and why are they doing it? They keep this sort of secret. There are more minerals and gold and diamond and all that sort of stuff, gold and diamonds and all that stuff in the asteroid belt. Then it's exponentially large. And so, what's Mars going to be? It's for mining, dude. They're going to have a mining colony. First of all, be an interplanetary species, and Elon's not joking about that. I think he truly believes in that. But then the first one that can actually start laying claims to those huge asteroids in our asteroid belt just beyond Mars, um, exponentially wealthy compared to our richest person on the world now. And then you suddenly are, controlling all the diamonds and the gold, not just for Earth, but for our solar system. And you're just like, and that's where it's going. There's got to be a financial reason to do it. So what else would there be? Anyways, all right. What else? We got one last thing here to touch on. I think are we going back to number 8 again, Lamar?
I wanted to explain real quick the meaning behind the X logo.
Oh, X, yeah, sorry.
You get your final opinions on if it's infringement or not, and then I'm just going to read out the article a little bit so everyone that's listening could hear a little bit about the article, and also it will be found in the description of this video. So keep in mind too. So just go to it real quick. The Twitter logo, which has until I looked it up just now, I've always wondered like why go so simple as just to calling it X. Is that he changed the Twitter logo to X to embody the imperfections in all of us that make us unique. He also has a fondness for the letter X, which has popped up throughout his career. The rebranding is also closely linked to his attempt to turn the news-led social network into a super app, kind of like TikTok. So that's the meaning behind it.
So he actually had reasons. Yeah, he just didn't pick it out of a hat.
Exactly. Also, he has. Did you know he has 12 children?
Wow. No, I did not.
Did not know that either. He has, although I'm not not.
Well, that would actually technically be then X11. But anyways.
Yeah, he had one child that he named like a really weird name for a child, like a whole bunch of letters and numbers and stuff. Very weird. But here,
wait, so he's got 12 kids?
He's got 12 kids.
I'm gonna be honest with you, he's not doing that great because I mean they're expensive.
Oh, he's got
to make all this money just to support those kids.
All right. What do you think? It's $1 million per kid, you think, maybe?
Yeah, the price of college. And Jesus, he sends them all to MIT to get degrees or Stanford, it's
right.
Man, he's gonna he's gonna take out loans.
Okay, so I'm gonna read this article. The Virginia.
It may be cheaper for him to buy Stanford or MIT than actually send all of his kids there.
Yeah, seriously.
Right now, MIT and Stanford like, shut up, don't give him that idea.
Right. So I'll go ahead and read the couple of articles or part of the article to you guys. The Virginia-based agency claims the platform's X branding violates its trademark. X filed in 2019 and has caused confusion among clients. The PR firm's Multiply is suing Elon Musk's social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter, for violating its trademark rights. According to a lawsuit filed in California federal court on Sunday, the complaint says X causes confusion by using the X trademark for social media marketing services that compete with Multiply. Since 2019, Multiply has operated under a stylized X trademark registered with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office known as the X mark, according to the complaint, which was reported on Reuters. The trademark X applies to Class 35, which includes advertising and business. The origin of the trademark dates back to October 2016, so it tells you how far back they had it. The lawsuit says when Multiply and its CEO, Dan Baum, decided to create a new logo on March 9, 2018, Baum filed an intent-to-use application with the USPTO seeking trademark protection for the stylized X. Matt, what is your thoughts? Is it infringement or no?
Nope.
Not trademark infringement, even though they filed it before Elon Musk had it filed as well?
I mean, it's Elon Musk uses it for a social media platform. From what I can see, they're using it for other things, and I just don't see the infringement here. And I'll just tell you point blank. I mean, here's when you sit on a jury, and when you deal with trademark infringement, it ultimately comes down to what what do you believe, and what is your opinion like, and in the minds of the consuming public, what is their mind? Is there confusion? I never heard of these people. Like, so, I mean, so if you're talking about, like, if I walked in the store and Coke is basically suddenly using an advertising slogan that's, confusingly similar to Pepsi, and I accidentally grab, a Pepsi, meaning you grab a Coke or vice versa, there's confusion, that's fine. I just don't think that there's any confusion. Like, I personally, on my personal level, have never seen any confusion with this. And so you don't need actual confusion to prove trademark infringement, just of note. But just from my perspective, I'm just looking at this going, who are these guys? So again, they have an absolute right to use our jury system and our court system to, if they feel that they've been aggrieved, by, Mr. Musk and his company. But personally, I just don't see it.
I agree. And also, while we're talking about infringements and a whole bunch of confusion with other people, filing oppositions or defenses against their own trademark for, enforcing their brand. We have a very thorough, comprehensive search that we do here at the Trademark Company for to see if your trademark is available. So if you do come to the trademark company looking to see what's out there before you get involved with filing something that somebody else could possibly have, do your research, do your search, and we do it for you, so you don't really have to think about it. So give us a call today. They go ahead and start that process. It's I think it's $299 for $299 for us to run that search. So feel free to give us a call to help with that process. Matt, are you ready to move on to the next topic?
I am.
Okay, the final we'll have a little bit longer here. I think we have about 6 minutes left in our podcast, so
Yeah.
this will be a little bit shorter of a one, so don't worry. So Matt, I think we actually talked about this in one of our last podcasts, but Lamar Jackson filed for the trademark 8, which is not just the number 8; it's literally the lettering EIGHT that is spelled out as a word. That he filed a opposition against Hall of Famer Troy Aikman, and is trying to stop Troy Aikman from using that name so that he can fully accept that name and have it trademarked. Matt, what's your thoughts?
Uh, Crazy town. Like on everyone's, so first of all, props out, Troy Aikman, Hall of Famer, all that sort of stuff. But I don't think anyone's entitled to actually the exclusive rights to use the number 8 on a jersey, which is really what they're trying for here. Because I think there's a very obtuse refusal at the Patent and Trademark Office called ornamental. It's an ornamental refusal, which is basically the best way to understand it is just like, think of like your old yellow smiley face on a t-shirt. Everyone remembers that from like the 70s and the 80s, or if you're in the 90s and you saw Forrest Gump, just trust me, it was a thing. But that's not a trademark use because you don't know who created the yellow smiley face. Trademarks are about identifying the manufacturer or the owner, like who produced this or who's providing the goods or services. And so 8, if Troy or Lamar want to register it for the name of their company, that's fine. But if you're trying to preclude others from ever putting 8 on a jersey, I think it's a really, it's a long haul to actually make that argument. And I think they're both arguing uphill because I'm not sure Troy Aikman should have gotten it approved. Then that is certainly in the context of they're trying to basically say, listen, the only number 8, whatnot. But to the extent that the Patent and Trademark Office allows them to register it, Troy Aikman would appear to have priority of use to me. But again, maybe he never used it, and maybe only the Cowboys used it, and so he's trying to latch on to back in his day when he was number 8 for the Cowboys. Again, I'll always be ride or die with those Cowboys because 2 out of 3 of what I consider the 3 amigos of the Cowboys, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin, obviously one of the greatest receivers of all time, University of Miami. Emmitt Smith, all-time leading rusher, and the need to say nothing more, and just an all-around great guy, University of Florida, my beloved Gators. And then Troy Aikman, which, by the way, little known fact, one of my high school quarterbacks, we were always shocked. We actually thought they were going to take him, and it would have been Craig Erickson, Emmitt Smith, and Michael Irvin with the Dallas Cowboys. because Craig was at the University of Miami, and they went with some guy out of UCLA named Troy Aikman, who they combined with those three, obviously with Jay Novacek, Nate Newton, not even getting into the defense, all the fantastic guys that they actually had on that team to win 3 Super Bowls, 3 rings, one of the greatest teams in NFL history. Props out to them. I still don't understand if it can actually give you rights to actually the number 8. And so I think they're both sort of fighting over something that's really shouldn't be trademarked at all for either one of them. Now, whether or not you can do a name, image, likeness, and any jersey that says Aikman on it that has number 8 on it, absolutely. Same with Mr. Jackson and 8 with Jackson. But from this guy's perspective, I just don't think it could be done. But hey, they're probably a lot better attorneys than I am, or was, or whatever the case may be. And let them fight out. By the way, I do have an interesting bet about Emmitt Smith. If you want me to tell you about that one real quick.
Yeah. Tell me about Emmitt Smith.
Sorry, if you ever want to win a bet, although you're going way back in history, and yes, I'm name dropping here, but Emmitt Smith famously played for the University of Florida, and basically played for a coach named Galen Hall, who was let go, and then they brought in a guy named Steve Spurrier, who was one of Florida's favorite sons, who had won a Heisman Trophy for Florida back in the day, who was brought Duke to an ACC championship, and then they hired him to replace Galen Hall. When Galen Hall was leaving, I think Emmitt Smith left early for the draft in large part because this guy named Steve Spurrier was coming in, and he effectively was going to pull in the fun and gun offense that really didn't emphasize a downhill running game like Emmitt Smith was fantastic as. So Emmitt's like, I'm going to go ahead and try this NFL thing and such. Now, to win almost any party bet you want, who did Emmitt Smith play in his first game at the University of Florida? And it's a great party bet to win, because most people will look up and be like, oh, what year did he play? 1980, I think 87 was his first season at University of Florida and all that sort of stuff. It's a trick question, because I said, who did he play his first game at University of Florida? Cardinal Newman High School is the answer, because our team and Craig Erickson, who would later be, I think, about an 8-year, 9-year NFL pro, our quarterback, and Emmitt, we all got knocked out of the state playoffs respectively. Emmitt played for Pensacola Escambia. We played for Cardinal Newman down in West Palm. And Galen Hall had us up, the University of Florida coach, because he wanted both Craig and Emmitt to actually come and play at the University of Florida. Craig chose Miami. Emmitt went on to Florida, and where Emmitt went. Craig ended up being a wonderful pro, but primarily in a backup role for his entire career. But Emmitt Smith's actual first game at University of Florida, the opponent was Cardinal Newman High School. So if you ever want to win a bet, that's a really good party bet for people who think they know, pro and college football, because they will never think all the way back to high school. But I've won that bet about 25 times over the years. I always thought it was a good bet. People can look it up. I think it was I can't remember, it was like a Miami of Ohio or something, like was his first game at the Swamp, and as an actual Florida Gator. But remember, we said at Florida, not when he was with Florida.
That's right. I would have lost that bet. I would have lost money on that bet if I would have bet it.
But anyways, yeah. So back to things. So sorry for the name dropping in. Oh yeah, Matt, you played high school football. We get it. But anyways,
yeah. Let me go ahead and read off this about the part of the article real quick. I'll ask you again if it's infringement or no. And then I have one little extra tidbit to share with you, and then we'll just close it down. So from the article, Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson recently filed a notice of opposition at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office in hopes of stopping a company connected to Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman from trademarking the number 8 spelled out as a word. While the 2-time NFL MVP usually connects on his throws, Jackson's legal toss against Aikman faces stiff defense. I like what they did on wordplay there. The case is fundamentally about a number widely used in everyday life in football. Jackson wears number 8. Aikman won 3 Super Bowls as for the Dallas Cowboys. And he's also, of course, a football broadcaster as well. Other prominent quarterbacks, like Aaron Rodgers, Matt Hasselbeck, Steve Young, a lot of other quarterbacks have, worn the number 8. Why does Lamar Jackson feel like he has to trademark this number 8? I don't know. But other than some sort of, I actually have no understanding completely why he's doing it. Matt, first answer me, is this infringement or no? And then also why do you think he's doing this?
Hot take, my opinion, no, it's not infringement because I don't think either one of them are entitled to the trademark. So it's sort of a unique situation. Why do I think Mr. Jackson's doing this? From what I've watched, the guy negotiated by himself without an agent. I think the NFL's largest contract in history. So I actually think he's a very smart, I'll say young man. I don't mean that like in a dismissive way, but that dude makes more money than I've ever made and will ever make in my life. So I think he's actually a very smart kid, very savvy. I think also another Florida kid, if I'm not mistaken, even though he went to Louisville for college. But I think he's just very savvy in reference to business. And I think that somehow, either he or someone in his inner circle is convinced him that he may be able to, be able to trademark this, get exclusive rights to it. And it's some type of play for him. And I mean this respectfully, like a business play for him to lock down rights so he gets some type of better negotiation with, his jersey resales. It's something to do with that. And it just happens to be that I think sort of a sideshow is the whole Aikman thing. But I think it's something to do with that. So if he locks that up, like, and maybe it's a function of, unauthorized, like, so maybe there's some rule that, like, when you see like a Baltimore's Ravens that's in number 8, but it doesn't say Jackson on the back of the jersey. Like maybe there's video games. I know Madden, is very specific. So they actually have the name of the players and all that sort of stuff. But are there other things out there like, people are maybe reselling, white jerseys with purple 8s on it and not giving Lamar his cut, which I actually then would sort of agree with him because the answer is he's the one that's making that jersey famous right now, just like Troy Aikman made the Cowboys blue 8 famous down in Dallas and around the country, obviously, and possibly around the world. And I'm a big supporter of if they made it famous, then they should be able to get their cut under name, image, and likeness. But whether or not they can actually trademark it is, I think, a slightly different nuance. So I think he's trying to use the trademark to give him a better leg up to basically say, listen, you can resell something with the purple letter 8 on it, purple number 8, excuse me, on it. But you just got to give me my proper license, my fee on this, because I'm the one that's going out there and working my buns off and basically earning it. And an athlete has an absolute right to say that, do that, et cetera, et cetera. It'd just be like Michael Jordan never had to say anything about it, but number 23. I mean, to this day, there's LeBron wore it for years. I think as a respect to Michael, but I think he later changed his number. What didn't he change his number, LeBron? Sorry to dovetail on this.
6. I think it's 6.
6 or something like that. Because he couldn't be, because Kobe also, I think Kobe may have been originally, but Kobe actually became 8 too, didn't he? I think Kobe ended his career being 8.
Yeah, Kobe's 8.
And so from sorry to Lamar and to Troy Aikman, the greatest 8th end of all time would be Kobe Bryant. Yeah, in my opinion. But I thought he may have also started off as 23 or something. But then 23 is always going to be Michael Jordan, and such. But you've never seen Michael Jordan go out there and try to do this because he's got, whatever. He got so much money, because all these guys, they do so well. But I think it's just a play. Somehow it's a money issue. So I don't necessarily disagree with the concept of them basically trying to get everything that's coming to them because they're the ones that have worked hard for it and they absolutely deserve it, in my opinion. It's their name, it's their image, it's their likeness. Troy, Kobe, Lamar, I'm sorry, Kobe, God rest his soul, obviously, and Michael Jordan, etc. They work their buns off and they deserve it. Whether or not trademarks is the best way to do it or whether it's relevant or not, definitely name, image, likeness. That remains to be seen. But once again, just as a prop out to, I'm sure there are law firms that are representing them. Those are very, very intelligent lawyers, and we'll let them battle it out. We'll watch from afar and see who ends up winning it.
Yeah, just like the Logan Paul scandal with the Prime News. We'll all keep updated on to see how that goes. Who knows how long that's going to last. Same thing with the X debate. I'll see how long that lasts too, and then maybe we'll do a future podcast following up on all of the news that we went over, just to see how everything played out. It's interesting to see how everything played out. But Matt, the one last little tiny thing I'll at least let you inform you on before we go, which is bringing it back to Logan Paul. I did not know this. I know, again, he was famous from Vines, went into obviously became very famous from YouTube. He also did famous Twitch streams with famous people. And obviously he did, he's been a boxer, but he's actually right now he is assigned to the WWE and has been since 2022. He's on SmackDown and he is currently the United States champion. Crazy.
Wow.
I did not know that he is the WWE champion. Crazy.
There you go. So he's making a couple bucks from the WWE and it gets his brand out there. I mean, it's worked for others, obviously, but props to him. I mean, that there's a company right there. Sorry, the RNC just wrapped up. And whether you're Republican, you're Democrat, you got to respect complicated. Can't respect a lot of the legacy of the WWE because it's tied with some very bad things right now. With people that have been accused of things, and they're, will go through their trial and they'll have their chance. But when Linda McMahon spoke, it was just like, helping to create $1 billion company, from nothing, and then if you get a chance to actually get into that and get in on that because they know what they're doing, props out to Paul, because it's good for his brand, it's good for business, and God bless, and we'll see him out there. And wow, WWE champ, cool for him.
Exactly. Another news: John Cena announced his retirement like a week or two ago. Really upsetting because he's pretty much my childhood hero. I loved him growing up, and I always probably continue will. I mean, he's always been such a great character, such a great person, great somewhat actor. I know he's not been the greatest in all of his films, but John Cena has always been a hero.
Suicide Squad was awesome. He was awesome in Suicide Squad.
Yeah, as Peacemaker,
that was funny.
He's awesome.
Yeah, that was. I think I don't see him, getting up to Dwayne Johnson status, obviously, but few do. I mean, Dwayne has run really well and such. How big is Cena? Cena just seems to me like he's sort of like who is the Canadian guy that tragically committed suicide? Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit. Cena's always to me seemed like sort of more like a Chris Benoit size, just not huge. Or is he bigger than he looks? He's just so thick. Is he like a 6'2" or 6'3"?
I think he's about as tall as me, and he's
6'2".
He's pretty massive, actually. He's very built.
Yeah,
he's
jacked.
I don't think he's as tall as The Rock or anything. But let me actually see. His height
Rock's
is
about
6'1".
6'4", give or take.
About as tall.
Also, just on the side, Rock and I are contemporaries. Again, if you ever like, doing a measuring stick, so Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, you always talk about, he actually played at Miami. Miami was my top school. I wish I could have played for. Then I almost went to play for the Gators, but it's a long story. But Miami, they were winning national championships at the time. The Florida Gators were not. Yeah, and so anyone in South Florida wanted to go play for Miami back in the late 80s. And Dwayne Johnson, I think he was out of a high school at that point in Memphis, Tennessee. And one of the guys that I played with ended up being opposite defensive ends to him when Dwayne was a down defensive lineman, he was defensive end. And a guy named Kevin Patrick, who was an absolutely stellar high school football player in South Florida, played for a place called Forest Hills. And then, and then he played with Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson famously lost a spot to Hall of Famer Warren Sapp, and then got nothing. But then look, talk about a story of resilience. And I think everyone also, maybe we'll talk about business resilience in one of our future podcasts. But Dwayne Johnson basically took getting cut from the NFL and the Canadian Football League and became one of the greatest or biggest blockbusters, movie stars of all time. That's what you got to do when you're in life: pivot and keep moving forward. And again, so it's cool to see Logan Paul is in that. Again, I don't think he'll ever get to a Dwayne Johnson level. But again, Dwayne Johnson, what a great story to talk about him at some future point with business and all that sort of stuff, because that guy is smart, charismatic, etc. And again, Logan Paul, Jake Paul, whichever Paul, John Cena, best of luck to all of them. But the pace setter for that group is definitely going to be Johnson.
Yeah, the massive amounts of movies that he is in constantly is just incredible to me. Like that guy must not have any free time. Like he must have secretaries at the wazoo just always telling him what's next and what he needs to go, what flight he needs to jump on, what movie scene or what movie place he needs to go to. It's crazy. So,
but in your life, and sorry, we're sliding into this, but I know we got to end this one up here. But in your life, what has happened to him is he's been at the bottom of the bottom. And so, and if you listen to any of his stuff on YouTube, I encourage everyone to, because it's good motivational stuff. And I don't know if he's still humble. He at least will tell you on YouTube that he's humble. But I mean, he has been at the bottom. So now that he's at the top,
Going back down never again. Yep.
yeah, exactly. And I'm going to continue to work even harder because I ain't going there. I ain't going there, and I'm going to make sure. And from his perspective, he's probably going to make sure his kids don't ever get there either, because it almost becomes an obsession. And again, not personalizing this too much, but coming through, like, people always ask, like, why do you work 7 days a week, all the hours that I actually work? And I'm just like, because I've been there, man. I have stared bankruptcy in the face. And now that I've pulled myself out of that, a decade later or whatnot, I am flying high right now, but not as high as Dwayne or anything else is. But I know the mentality, and I'm like, and you got to respect it. So failing is not necessarily a bad thing if you react well to it. And if you react well to it, and then you just start hitting on all cylinders, you know what it's like. And then it almost becomes an obsession to continue hitting on all cylinders. But sorry, we dovetailed on that one a little bit. Back to you,
Oh, I
sir.
think that's the best way to end it, Matt. So thank you again, everyone that's listening, for another episode of podcast. Again, we covered Logan Paul's story, Elon Musk, and then also Lamar Jackson. Matt, you've basically said there was infringement on Logan Paul's part, not infringement on Musk's part, and then also Lamar's. Jackson, he shouldn't be trying to get that one through and have other people opposed to him. So I think we've covered it all. I think we've also covered a new little tidbit we'll add into every single podcast, which is the infringement portion. So I think that's good too. Again, this episode is sponsored by the Trademark Company, so I'll leave the link in the description for that too. Join us on our next podcast that we host every single week. And as always, stay healthy, stay hydrated. And well, it's not really hot in North Carolina right now, but if you are in a place that is very hot, stay hydrated. Matt, anything? Say to everyone?
Nope. Thank you, sir.
All righty. Well, everyone have a great day, and thank you very much.